to DEFCON 3. I'm KT McFarland. A major offensive against ISIS is underway in Iraq. Troops there are battling to retake the terror group's stronghold of Mosul, and that city has been under ISIS control for more than 2 years. But what happens next? That brings us to a nonprofit group called the Harrion Foundation. Joining me to talk about it is the chairman of the board at the Harrion Foundation, Martin Rodriguez. Okay, so Martin, what happens after the fighting stops? That's where you come in, and who are you and what do you do?
Great, yes, thank you for having us. The Harrion Foundation is a 501c3 not-for-profit comprised of ex-elite military, UK and US, and what we do is we work at the front lines of conflict areas, working with people like this, people who are unable to flee, so usually women and children, elderly, and provide them assistance.
Okay, so the fighting stops.
Yes.
You go in, you see the city of Mosul, and it's in rubble, and there are a lot of orphans, and there are a lot of women and children, and what do you do then to them? Because is there no U.S. program that steps in?
Actually, there is no U.S. program. In fact, the UN says that this could be one of the biggest humanitarian disasters in a long, long time. And that's the unfortunate part. I think there's a great plan to retake Mosul.
A military plan.
A military plan, but there's not a plan for what are we going to do afterwards. And obviously, Harrion is a small organization, so I think the projections are up to 1 million refugees. That's something that obviously we can't handle. But there needs to be something in place for something like that.
So what happens then? These are refugees. These are people who fled other parts of Mosul, who've been in bunkers for the last 2 years. You go in and do what for them?
We provide food, clothing, and basic necessities, the stuff that they're going to need right away. Those that don't have family anymore, they were either captives, they were sex slaves. Those we take to an area, one of our safe houses, or to one of the refugee camps that's in Kurdistan. And there we provide, along with our partner groups, mental health counseling, checkups, those kind of things, and get them kind of back on their feet.
You know, this is obviously one of the big hot-button issues in the United States. What do you do about the refugees in the Middle East? You know, do you bring them to the United States as immigrants? Do you have safe zones? Both Trump and Clinton have talked about safe zones in the region. And you've been there, you fought there, you're dealing with these people now. What do you think makes sense?
I think there needs to be a holistic approach, an ecosystem to taking care of these, the young kids and the women that are there right now. I don't think many of them don't want to leave. Actually, yes, this is where they grew up. This is where their family's at. Unfortunately, you have non-state actors such as ISIS, which have taken over large swaths of both Syria and Iraq, and that's kind of where our specialty is, working on the front lines of conflict zones around the world. Where other NGOs aren't able to operate, we have those type of skills. So I think a lot of them want to stay there. We have to have the infrastructure in place to kind of get them back on their feet. So
there's no international UN, Red Cross, there's nothing that goes in there and helps these refugees, these orphans, these war-torn victims. There's nothing to help them remake their lives?
Well, there is obviously UN support there. There's UN refugee camps, of course. There's other NGOs that do provide, some basic necessities, but they're woefully inadequate for the scope of what is going on. And those organizations don't work at the front lines. For example, we'll be the first NGO to actually go into Mosul.
I mean, they go in once it's safe and secure and up and running, civil society's up and running.
Yes.
So when tell me what happens if you don't go in. I mean, I read that there are now 4 million children who are not in schools, who are just, rootless in the ISIS, in the areas that we've retaken from ISIS. So what happens to them? That looks to me like it's another generation of jihadist fighters.
That's exactly right. That's why we believe in a holistic approach to preventing the extremism of tomorrow by tackling it today. And part of that is getting these kids into schools, having an approach for them to have a system where they can kind of grow and not get sucked into this ideology.
Right. How do we find you? People are looking at this. They're horrified at what comes next because there isn't anything that comes next.
Sure.
How do they find you? How do they help?
Well, we're on social media, so Instagram, Facebook, of course, and then we have our website, so harrionfoundation.org would be the best way to reach us.
Well, I got to tell you, as an Army veteran, and you fought in these areas before, the fact that you're doing this with other British Army veterans and trying to take the next step after the fighting stops, congratulations. You're doing a great thing.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. That was Martin Rodriguez of the Harrion Foundation. And that's it for me, KT McFarland, DEFCON 3. Thanks for watching.